See, while you was on the corner trying to scrape up pack money, I was driving 80 stack trucks off rap money. I'm back money. If you want it, come to the hundreds and ask for me. Meet them OGs that'll blast for me. I'm right here. Ill Adidas, $400 jeans on me. Itchy with no safety, a loaded magazine on me. Southside, that's as wild as it gets. And no, I never sold crack. That's some house nigga shit. I'm not judging, but every man that's a man gotta stand by his principles, and I'm not budging. That's Mickey. You can take it how you want, but you can never be me. You can fake it how you want. I spit that uncut raw. You can bake it how you want. Break it down any way you like, you get the same result. Just get in tune. The elephant in the room has now assumed pole position. Whoa. Oh. BJ, get him. Come on.
Reporting live from the gutter where that butter get gorillas jobs. That's why we call it work. The same work who get a nigga robbed. I throw my dice against the concrete. If the bitches pass, see you later. Grab my paper, tell her stay to kiss my ass. This the jungle, baby, I'm a lion. Try me, I'll be firing. The same banger saved Private Ryan. You the prey, you survive and hide. Better pray that them vultures and them rovers don't go flying by them. Them other niggas just so-so. How Linda birth a nigga this hot in the cold go? I went from 20-inch assassins on that Osmo to the pretty 760 sitting low on the bozo. Those up big shoes, you motherfuckers is so slow. Get caught without your heat in these streets is
we shine wherever we go. We shine wherever we go. Lord, Lord. Welcome to the mind of a pothead. On my head, see a young nigga got dressed. We don't give a fuck what the cop said. I'm living a legacy. So even when I die, I am not dead. Nigga, I am not dead. Fuck with me.
What up, what up, what up, what up? Welcome to my Said What I Said. Hold on, Ron. Don't you run up out of here, G. We got to bring Herb in, too. I don't know how to do none of this. So bear with us, y'all. We're not having technical difficulties. I'm just ignorant of how this program works. But Ron is going to bring Herb in for us, and Herb is going to do his usual introduction because he's already on the line, because I don't know nothing about that introduction. But you are listening to I Said What I Said on What's In It For The Black People Media. And I can hear Herb, so bring Herb in. Yeah, bring Herb in.
we can hear you.
Right, breathing hard, you know what I'm saying?
What's wrong with y'all, man?
I thought Ron had us right, but Ron don't have us right. Now Ron got us right.
Something is wrong with y'all, man. What's going on?
What's up, brother? You want to do this? You want to do your introduction? It's so flowery and lovely, man. I can't do it like you do it.
I can do it, man. What's happening, good people? Welcome to this Thursday edition of I Said What I Said. Two is live from inside the studio. I am not inside the studio due to some circumstances beyond my control. Couldn't be in the studio today. We're happy to be hanging out with y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning in to this Thursday edition of I Said What I Said. Each and every weekday, 3 to 6 p.m., we are right here with you all. We're discussing issues that currently impact the Black community, how they impact us as individuals, but also how they impact us as a collective. And along with your help, we talk through many of these issues in hopes of finding the optimum solutions for how we can overcome those issues. Again, overcome them as individuals, but more importantly, overcome them as a collective. Thank y'all so very, very much for choosing to be a part of this conversation. As always, your input is valued. It is certainly appreciated. Anything you want to add to the conversation, feel free to do so. We will read through as many of your comments as possible while we go through the show. We would kindly request y'all, please take a quick second to share the broadcast, share it on your personal page, share it even within your personal network. Absolutely anyone that you think would add value to this conversation or find value in this conversation, we welcome them to be a part of the discussion, because we believe the more like-minded individuals we can get to be a part of this discussion, the better the opportunities we have of reaching those aforementioned solutions. So please, 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 if you will, take a quick second to share the broadcast. Again, this is I Said What I Said. It is intellectual thuggery at its absolute finest. My name is Herb. His name is Two. What's happening, good brother?
I'm much better, family. Now that you in here doing your intro, it feels like we back on the team again. You know, we got this thing figured out. You play the one, I play the two. I don't like playing the one. I'm out of position right now.
Yeah, you know, it's all good. We'll make it work, man. Whatever needs to happen will happen, so we can do what we need to do. But absolutely appreciate you holding it down and being flexible and, you know, being a dope teammate. But I've been thinking, bro. I think I'm gonna do a Is Wiz intro challenge. Like, I'm just
Oh,
gonna
really?
like, yeah, because like people make a lot of like fun of it, and a few people have like tried to like regurgitate it to me, and like or like Sadiq make jokes about it or whatever. But it's like it didn't come from nowhere. It just one day I said it, it sounded good, so I said it again the next day, and I've been saying it every day since. But some people get a kick out of it, and so they try to like say it back to me in different ways. And I think I'm gonna do like a Is Wiz intro challenge. So if y'all find the intro funny or entertaining or whatever, we'll do a challenge, man. We're gonna do an Is Wiz intro challenge. Y'all record yourself doing the intro and send it to me. And I guess the best one, we'll pick the best one and send y'all something, a hoodie
Man,
or
I
a
say
shirt or
go
something
for it,
like that.
brother. I say go for it. I be trying to remember the intro all the time, and I can't never remember the first word. It's like a rhyme. Like you can't remember the first word of the rhyme, you never figure the rest of
Right,
it
you
out.
done. Right. That's
So
real.
one, it reminds me of how much I really don't pay attention to you, and two, I need to get better.
Nobody's heard me say it more than you, and you don't know it. So
Hey man, but
it
check
is what it
game
is.
though,
Some days
brother.
I don't know it.
Yeah, but check game,
It's
man.
all
So
good, man.
earlier, me and her was on the phone, man, and I was in the gym working out, and I've been wanting to ride my bike all week. I was gonna ride it yesterday, but they were saying it was gonna rain, and just because of the history with my bike, you know, as soon as I get on it, if it wasn't gonna rain, it's gonna start raining as soon as I get on it.
Of
So I
course.
got on it for a minute, and I turned around halfway because I started seeing dark clouds in the sky. I'm like, man, it's gonna rain. Let me go back to the crib, put the bike up. But today I was determined. I was like, man, I'm riding the bike today. So this is what happened before I left the house today. First, Herb calls me saying, hey, man, you know, I'm going to probably do it remote today, so I'm going to need you to be in the point guard position, which is uncomfortable for me from the jump. So I was like, all right, that's some BS, but I'll figure it out. So then, after I get home from the gym, I had some work to do, got some projects out or whatever, and I said, I'm going to ride my bike today. So I get up to ride my bike, and I got this brand new air pump and everything. This is what they've been telling me, right? You got to pump your air every 2 days. Like every 2
Wow.
days. Like every time you don't ride, every 2 days after you ride it, you pump your air. This is the Bentley bike shit, right? This is the BS.
Right.
So I bought this
Right.
pump, and I'm pushing the pump
$12,000
in.
bike. It should pump its own
It's the
tires.
capitalist pump and the capitalist
This
bike.
is the capitalist pump and the capitalist bike, and it works just like capitalism works. It doesn't work at all. So I'm pumping air in the tire, and the air is coming out. And I'm like, man, what's going on here? So I'm changing the settings and everything. Never get it to work right, but I'm determined to ride the bike. Now, mind you, it is 2:15 at this time, right? Really, it's 1:58. So if I get out the house by 2, I can take a leisurely ride to the station, right?
Right.
So the air kept coming out, but I'm determined. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna hitch this bike back to the car. I'm gonna shoot to the gas station real fast, and I'm gonna pump it full of air. Did all that, went to the gas station, got back to the crib, 2:35ish, 2:40. Jumped on the bike, got here 2 minutes before the show started. I am a Viking. I just want that to be noted.
I am a Viking.
I am a Viking, G. I'm a Viking.
You need to call yourself a Viking.
No,
Because
Viking.
you can't be Nordic, man.
No, I'm a Viking.
You can't be
They stole that from us and repackaged it. I'm a Viking.
A Viking.
Truth be
That's
told,
what's
I
up,
like
man.
the Viking thing, but I cannot give Maze credit for anything, so I cannot use it.
That's all right. I'm gonna make it a T-shirt, and then you're gonna be like, "Damn, give me one." Like inspired by two.
Hey, that's what's up, man. I'm glad you went ahead and hopped on the bike. You are very stubborn about getting on that bike, man, regardless. Once you make up your mind about it, you're going to get on that bike regardless of what comes. I can respect it, man. I'm the same way
It's an
about
addiction.
shorts. Once I make up my mind that it should be late enough in the year for me to wear shorts, then that's just what I'm going to do, regardless of what's happening.
Yeah, man, it's definitely addiction, man. But I can't wait till we get some real weather because I was freezing. I was flying, but I was also freezing. Like that, you know, Chicago.
Yeah, the faster you go, the
deceptive,
colder
man.
you get.
Yeah, but Chicago's deceptive, right? I was out there earlier, like I said, I went to the gym, so I was outside earlier, and it felt decent enough to get on the bike, but it feels a little bit different when you pushing and pedaling. That wind get to hitting your butt, it feels different, you know.
Yeah,
So
no, for sure.
I was freezing a little bit, but it's all right. It is what it is. I got a little bit of use out the bike. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially, I mean, you ain't too far from the water. The studio ain't too far from the water. So, you know, over east it's always a little bit cooler than it is further inland. So you're getting that wind right off the lake, and it's smacking you while you're riding, and you got 20 minutes to get to the studio. But you made it in 18, man. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, it was
man.
completely disrespectful, but I did what I did, you know. But we got a good show planned for you today, man. I was listening to Sadiq and Cassie. They got into a little bit of the conversation about the Evanston reparations bill And
Yeah.
because of Salim's conversation the other day with the alderman from Everson, I can never remember her name. Joy LaRue?
Robin Rue Simmons.
What was I saying? Robin Rue Simmons. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So they got into that conversation a little bit. And because of the conversation that was taking place in the comments, you know, the Adolph's conversation came up and in contrast to the Nkoba conversation. So Marlon Watson was in the comments. He was tagged to come into the comments. And if anybody who's on the grounds knows, he's the well, he used to be, let's say that. He was the chair of the Chicago chapter of the ADO's chapters. But he talked about how they had some kind of a separation, and he felt a certain kind of way about Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore. So he's going to, you know, reach out today, and we're going to have a conversation with him, and we're expecting him in about the next 15 minutes or so. But
that's going to be dope, man.
Yeah, I expect that to be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, definitely should be an interesting conversation. Looking forward to his perspective in totality about reparations and you know how we should be moving, but also his intimate knowledge of ADOS as an organization and how he feels about it moving forward. I don't know, you know, how much he's going to want to divulge in terms of that particular piece, but obviously he's already on the record saying some things already. So definitely looking forward to his conversation on that piece and see how we can tie it together to the dope conversation that Salim kicked off on Muwakil's World, and that has expanded into I Said What I Said and the Mace Jackson Show, and it just continues. It's an important conversation that continues to evolve. It's dope that Salim was able to kick it off in the way he did, not only with Alderwoman Robin Rue Simmons, who spearheaded this historic ordinance, but also with Brother Cam Howard from Nkoba. And so now to sit down and talk with Marlon is you know, that's gonna be dope. So definitely looking forward to the conversation that we're gonna be able to have with him. See you know where he's how his thought process has evolved on the whole thing, reparations as a whole, but also how we go about getting it and the cooperative work that it seems like it's gonna take, but it also doesn't seem like we have in place right now.
No, that's real talk. That's real talk, man. Cass and him also got into another conversation, man. We usually share the stuff for the.
I saw Sister Tequila on there today, man. I hadn't seen Sister Tequila in a minute, man. It's good to see her face.
Yeah, shout out to Tequila, man. I'm doing the project with Tequila too. Maybe that's why I didn't, you know, I see her all the time. But
yeah, I ain't seen Tequila in a little minute for real.
Yeah, man. But we usually share these conversations, save these conversations to the 5 o'clock hour, G. But I don't want to put that much time in it. We're gonna just waste some time until Marlon gets on the air. Have you been paying attention to this Derek Jackson? Is it Jax or Jackson? Derek Jackson thing?
Jackson. So I have not been paying attention to it until we brought it up on the show. I had never even heard his name. I had no idea who the dude was. Had never seen him or none of his videos. And so as it's become this thing over the past few days or so, I've seen his name and seen his image pop up a little bit more, and mostly just laughing at the memes or whatnot for like how they did that little interview where him and his wife was there and they were saying she on the bottom and all that. And it's real funny. Then my Bears group chat, I seen a thing that said it had a meme of them up there, and it said me as the wife and then him as the Bears, and just sitting there holding his hand.
Hey man, the internet is undefeated, G.
Undefeated, and they move so fast, dog. They move so fast. So some of the parodies that people have put up, hilarious, man. So
man,
other than that, I didn't know who he was, but over the past couple of days, he's been hard to avoid.
Yeah, that's kind of how I look at it too, man. I don't pay the dude no attention. I was aware of him, but I don't pay him much attention. But I want to approach this from a different perspective, and maybe we need more time than this next 14 minutes or so. But you know, the conversation that Cassie and Tequila was having, and Sadiq too, was about Mean Girls, because you know most of the attacks that are coming for that sister is coming from other sisters, and it was mainly about her appearance in the video and her being a goofball for showing up in the video, and that's one thing. You know, you can have whatever perspective you want on that, but she released her own video the other day. And
I heard about that.
In his video, it was a conversation where they were kind of making this ode to religion and God and how they was getting through their relationship qualms through the church. And, you know, I kind of take that mystery Sky Daddy conversation with a grain of salt. You know what I mean?
Mythical Sky Daddy. I've seen the Mythical Sky Daddy T-shirt draft you put up with, man.
Body wasn't that hard. Wasn't nobody rocking with that, but I thought that was hard.
Oh, that joint fire, man. If y'all haven't had a chance, go to the IsWiz pod page on Instagram. And Toussaint posted some of the latest designs that he's put together. And, you know, depending on which ones y'all like most, we're going to get those printed up for y'all. But It was like, I don't know, like 7, 8 different designs, and I thought they was all super, super dope, including Manager Man.
Yeah,
Like
we
that
definitely got to get the Manager
was-
Man done. People was rocking with the Manager Man too, man. They was liking the
I
Manager
know.
Man joints.
I've heard good reviews about Manager Man.
I know we moving all over
The
the place,
shirt,
but you
not the
see,
person.
Manager Man had his first show today.
I did, keeping it realer. I did peep that. Him and Mary was on there. Maze was on there. It was dope.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Manager Man. He's not in here today. We got Maison behind the boards today. But back to this Derek Jacks thing, G. So his sister, I mean not his sister. I said his sister.
Jackson.
That's Derek
His
Jackson.
wife.
He calls himself Derek Jacks though. That's his public name. I didn't know it was Jackson at all. But his
Goofball.
wife, man, she comes out with her own video. And
Mm-hmm.
she was talking about, being cheated on and all that. But the way she spoke about it scared me to death. Because
In what way?
she centered it all in mythical Sky Daddy logic, right?
Mm.
And it almost sounded like cultish. You know what I mean? Like the way she responded. And one thing about crazy, right? You can see it in people's eyes. And that woman is crazy, bro. And I think she's a harm to herself and to him. I think that man has a much larger problem on his hand than he recognizes. The eyes is the windows to the soul, and she ain't home, fam. She ain't there no more. It's gonna be dangerous for that man.
If she ain't there, perhaps he's partly responsible for her absence. You know what I mean? Absent-minded, absent of soul, absent of spirit, whatever she's absent of. Perhaps he's played some role in that, and perhaps the only way for them to get to 102 is to deal with their own issues together at 101.
Oh yeah, they gonna have to deal. She gonna murder him.
Yeah,
she's definitely gonna murder him.
You
I'm
think so?
waiting for about a week. We gonna hit the news because
I'm waiting for a week.
Yeah, she got about a week left in her. Like she had about a week left of soul. Ain't nothing left in that woman. You know what I'm saying? He done did her really dirty. It's
Hey, man,
really bad for about here.
One of the parodies I seen, because I still didn't watch the video of them two together, but one of the parodies I seen, I did watch that, and the way that this man and this woman were acting was hilarious. Like the woman's on the couch, like, yeah, okay, she got these big eyes, and she's like, okay. She's like, he's squeezing her hand. People just been clowning them, man. Like you said, the internet is undefeated. But I don't know about them, bro. Like I don't know, man. People find their reasons to stay in relationships. People find their reasons to leave, and far be it for me to tell them which way they need to be going. But they definitely seem to both have some serious issues. She looked a little off for sure.
Yeah, Howard Trout said he done tested all of her work. I agree. She's at her last. She's on her last
out.
leg. Yeah, she's tired of it, brother. Whatever it is that they got really going on, Sadiq and them talked about it from the standpoint of it was a great marketing campaign, a great marketing concept. And that might be true.
He do got a book out, right?
Yeah, he has a few books out, and that could be quite possibly could be true, right? But one thing for certain, two things for sure, right? We live in this kind of transactional society, but nature versus nurture, man. Nature has not failed us yet, and it is not a woman's nature to be dragged through the mud in the way publicly and through the mud the way she's being dragged through the mud. That's there's another conversation that we need to address. Maybe we'll say that for Relationship Friday, right? But there's a conversation that's emerging out of this incident that kind of says that it's talking about his ego, the man's ego, but it's also showing other women's ego outside of the situation of how they would have responded to this event had it been them. And I'm pushing
that's cap though.
No, but that's something that kind of gets lost in the sauce. I think the female ego is bigger than the male ego. We just don't give it as just due credit, and I think part of the narrative gets spewed about men all the time, and it's a very similar narrative for women, but no one ever addresses it, even around the cheating concept. Like, it's like, ooh, men cheat, and that's because that's a topic of conversation right now. But if you look at the data, it's like 50-50. You know what I mean? It's really like 50-50. And I'm a man, and I've known women all my life, and I don't know why we would be confused about that. I've engaged, and I'm sure most of the men in the chat have engaged with women who was engaged with other cats at the time. So to assume that they operate outside of that behavior or they're above that behavior is a falsehood. But the female ego though is something amazing. There's another meme going around. It's talking about that sister specifically. Like, before I would have sat on that couch, I would have drugged my coochie across hot gravel for a mile before I did that.
I saw that.
Yeah, and and to me, like that's a reflection of that ego. Like before I sit in there and be embarrassed, this is what it'll be. You know what I mean? And that's a conversation that never seemingly gets to take place.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that, and I'm willing to have the conversation about the female ego, but I think mostly what we're hearing in response to other women that are not in those people's relationship, I think we're mostly just hearing people just fronting about shit that ain't got nothing to do with them. You know what I mean? Like everybody got a answer for how they would respond until it happens to them. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody, like it don't matter what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? It's Monday morning quarterbacking. You know what I mean? Like I would have did this, I would have did that, or if them niggas had run up on me, I would have. They didn't run up on you, fam. And when somebody did run up on you, how did you actually respond? And it's the same way in relationships. Oh, if my partner had done this to me, I'd have left. I'd have. What's going on in your own relationship, though? You know what I'm saying? But people when it ain't them, it's easy to say how they would respond. So it's easy to use her she's an easy target right now. She did it to herself. She put the target on her own back. She's got to kind of deal with that. But that don't mean that everybody who's saying how they would have responded would actually respond that way, because clearly there's a lot of unhealthy relationships in our society, and nobody's gonna come out in the middle of their unhealthy relationship and be like, hey, my shit's unhealthy too. Everybody gonna be like, no, I would have this, that, and the third. It's like, but would you though? You know what I'm saying? And so like you could just shut the fuck up. That's an option. But people have a problem with that.
This just in, and I can't confirm it, and it's coming from one of the YouTube comments, but it speaks to what I saw just in her eyes. It says she needs deep psychotherapy. I've only seen a screenshot of her on Facebook, so I can't validate, but she stated that she was raped and her father committed suicide, which she blames herself for. There's some serious traumas that she hides behind religion, and maybe some trauma bonding with him. A full-on narcissist, it could be a sham, but it's a dark one. I agree with all of that, and I didn't know none of that information. We laughing, but I'm serious. When you look at that woman's eyes, she's not home, man. She's not home at all, and that's a dangerous situation, But in the video, man, because everybody's making fun of her bonnet, and this kind of where you get to that Jesus cultish kind of mystery sky daddy conversation, and when it goes a little bit too far for me to deal with. She was dealing with the bonnet in her own video. She was like, it's not a bonnet. It's not a bonnet. It's a hat. Matter of fact, it's a helmet for Jesus. I said, oh, Lord. Oh, my God. It's all bad for homie, man. It's all bad. Get out of there now. Get out of there now.
A helmet for Jesus. She's a Viking.
For Jesus, G. I said, homie, run now. I was feeling like
run for the hills,
movie Get Out, G. I'm hitting the teacup like, homie, run. Run, fam. It's a wrap. All bad for the homie, man. All bad.
Hey, man, what I'll say about this, man, anytime that a person has shown themselves to be crazy, there were lots of red flags and signs leading up to that. She ain't turned crazy yesterday. So either she was crazy and he bypassed some red flags, or you made her crazy and them red flags is also your red flags. Either way, you got some accountability in this situation. Not to mention y'all only on here live because you were smoking her, like while simultaneously trying to smoke every other man on the planet by acting like you were, the standard for male behavior within relationships. But clearly you ain't that, fam. So however crazy she is, his ass need to take his responsibility in that role, in that equation, because he ain't without accountability in this situation. Whatever her mental status is, he's not without accountability.
Nah, you know what? So I'm gonna push back on that one though, because I don't think you can make anyone crazy. And again, like I said, in my opinion, relationships are mirrors. And until you deal with whatever traumas you're dealing with, the universe is gonna keep showing up in that way. It's gonna keep reflecting that through the mate you choose. You know what I mean? And I don't know their story. I didn't know nothing about the traumas behind her dad passing away or being molested at an early age. I didn't know none of that. You know what I mean? But just off the rip, dude's a narcissist. Off the rip, without knowing nothing else about him, he's a narcissist. And how that plays out in interpersonal relationships could go a plethora of ways. And again, like Beulah always says, sometimes we confuse our traumas for our truths. And I think in a very transactional society where we don't really deal with the internal spirit, you end up in situations, the universe puts you in situations to force you to deal with them. Like I said, nature versus nurture. And nature is undefeated. We made that joke about the internet being undefeated. Nature is undefeated. you gonna find your equal. You gonna find whatever it is, whatever the cure is to your ailment, you gonna find it. They're just gonna put you in front of it to fix what's wrong within you. So, you know, maybe his actions is just a reflection to say, hey, man, you got some shit to deal with. And again, him too, right? Him too. It's a reflection for him too. But because she's at the space where she's at mentally, and again, I don't know if it's any factor what was stated in YouTube. I'm just saying, just visually looking at that woman, homie needs to straighten up his act or move around because she's going to murder him. I don't have no question about it. Listen, I know murders. She's going to murder him.
But again, that's his cross to bear, man. For the decisions that he's made, not only in choosing to be with that woman, but in choosing to build a life for her and choosing to have this public image with her, and then to behave the way he was behaving. And so, however far her trauma goes back, whether it predates his infidelities or not, like, you understood that this woman ain't all the way together. And quite frankly, neither are you. And you just got to kind of deal with that shit, man. You and I was having we had a long conversation earlier today, and we talked about among other things this dynamic of you know, dealing with the shit you got to deal with, and if you don't deal with it, you'll continue to see it repeated throughout your journey until you fucking actually deal with that shit. And you know, we was talking about it from a couple of, you know, different perspectives or different scenarios that's playing out, but it's true. Like, you gotta fucking deal with the shit. Otherwise, you'll continue to see it. And if you haven't kind of dealt with it yet, you may not even recognize it as it being the same thing again. It may seem like something else, but at its core, it's really the same thing. And there's a lot of different ways you can deal with it. You can get it from somebody else. Like the conversation we were having earlier, you were offering your perspective for a similar thing for me to deal with, right? And, you know, me being who I am and how I am, I could be stubborn as fuck, and, you know, I'm figure out my own way through this. It's like, okay, that's fine. You know what I'm saying? I'm just telling you how that's most likely going to end. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, you're right. I should do that thing. I'm just telling you, I still might do the other thing. Like, you know what I mean? But until you actually deal with things as they need to be dealt with, they'll continue to pop up. They'll continue to repeat themselves in one way, shape, or form, professionally, personally, socially, whatever it is. You'll continue to see that thing pop up until you deal with it properly.
Yeah, that's real talk, man. That's real talk. So we got to take a quick break, and our caller should be calling in a hot second. We're going to take this quick break real quick. And when we come back, we should have our call in. Steve, I see you, man. I'm going to read that comment on the air, too, man, as soon as we come back. And, hey, y'all, we winging it today. We got Maze behind the boards and me controlling everything up front. This is going to be very, very interesting. So,
and
so bear with us.
Just a heads up on that piece too. We may be having an abbreviated edition of I Say What I Said. We're going to have the conversation with the guests coming up, and then we may or may not be going all the way to the 6th. But we're certainly going to have the conversation. But we'll work it out on the other side of the break. Either way, thank y'all for being here. Hope y'all doing good out there on this Thursday afternoon. This is I Say What I Said. His name is Tu. My name is Herb. We'll be right back.
All day. Check it out. See, while you was on the corner trying to scrape up pack money, I was driving 80 stack trucks off rap money. I'm back money. If you want it, come to the hundreds and ask for me. Meet them OGs that are blast for me. I'm right here. Ill Adidas, $400 jeans on me. Itchy with no safety, a loaded magazine on me. Southside, that's as wild as it gets. And no, I never sold crack. That's some house nigga shit. I'm not judging, but every man that's a man gotta stand by his principles, and I'm not budging. That's Mickey. You can take it how you want, but you can never be me. You can fake it how you want. I spit that uncut raw. You can bake it how you want. Break it down any way you like, you get the same result. Get in tune. The elephant in the room has now assumed pole position. Whoa.
Yo, dude, can you hear me?
Get him. Come on.
Reporting live from the gutter where that butter get gorillas jobs. That's why we call it work. The same work who get a nigga robbed. I throw my dice against the concrete. If the bitches pass, see you later. Grab my paper, tell us later, kiss my ass. This the jungle, baby, I'm a lion. Try me, I'll be firing. The same banger saved Private Brian. You the prey, you survive and hide. Better pray that them vultures and them rovers don't go flying by him. Them other niggas just so-so. How Lindenberg for nigga this hot in the cold go. I went from 20-inch assassins on that Osmo to the pretty 760 sitting low on them bozos. Those are big shoes, you motherfuckers is so slow. Get caught without your heat in these streets is a no-no. Baby need Pampers, daddy need that photo. It's bread or nothing, big old niggas, you see the logo. Whoa. Whoa. Come on, Scooter.
Look, I don't see a nigga alive. And if a nigga claim he better, then that nigga done lied. And if some niggas jump chose, bet them niggas.
Sissy's Taco Bar Pop-Up is back with more hours and more days. Check them out at their new pop-up location at The Woodlawn, located 1200 East 79th Street. Sissy's Taco Bar offers authentic street tacos infused with international soul. Now every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at The Woodlawn from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. New vegan tacos have been added to the menu too. Visit sissytacobar.com for more info.
Shop at Black-owned and operated Solo Beauty, where you are appreciated and respected. Located at 8158 South Cottage Grove, Solo Beauty can supply all of your black hair care needs. Solo Beauty is open from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday.
WIFTPM.
And we are back. You are tuned in to I Said What I Said. I am Toussaint Werner. See, I don't even know how to do this right. But what? The co-host is Herb Howard.
You got it.
Yeah. And we got my man Marlon Watson from the I don't even want to say the 8-Off chapter because that's where he originated from, but I don't want to say he's from.
No, you can say that.
Anymore.
You can say that.
Still say 8-Off. Marlon, what's up, brother? How you doing?
Yeah. I'm still 8-Off Chicago. You still doing it?
Okay, well, it's a little bit of confusion because in the comments the other day you were saying that you all are separated from the movement. So break that down so we have a clarity, so at least I can address it from the right perspective. For sure. What's up? First of all, too. What's up, Herb? What's up, bro?
What's happening, King? Appreciate your time, man.
Anytime, man. Anytime. I'll be doing nothing. Anytime y'all want me to come on, would definitely come on. But yeah, I'm still the president of 8-Off Chicago, 8-Off Illinois. We still an organization in the city of Chicago. We're still a reparations organization. We still stick to the same founding principles that we had when we started. And 8-Off Chicago is the first organization in this particular movement, this lineage-based movement. So 8-Off Chicago was the first one in the country, in America. So it's still the same. But what I was saying in the chat yesterday is we don't associate with Yvette and Tone anymore. And when I say we, I'm talking about my chapter, 8-Off Chicago, and about 95%, probably 99% of the rest of the chapters. It was several chapters across the country that popped up over the past, say, 2 years. It was all organic. It was nothing that was ever orchestrated by anybody. We just saw the information, we saw the data, and we got inspired. And so our chapter popped up, and after that, chapters started popping up all over the country. So we've always been autonomous. We've always been independent. We just took the name ADOS Chicago, ADOS Ohio, etc., because we started to identify ourselves as a people group as ADOS. So, it's kind of natural to attach that to an organization name in terms of advocacy, just like say Black Lives Matter. Black is not a people group, but Black Lives Matter is an organization. So when the organization started popping up, we just started to name ourselves ADOS Chicago, ADOS, et cetera. And we've always known each other. We've always communicated. across the country as best we could, but there's never been a national umbrella per se. There's never been a national organization that governed what we do. We just always had kind of like a gentleman's agreement with each other as it relates to how we operate across state lines, etc. But myself and other people have always tried to make or create a national organization. I don't know if you remember, Yvette came to Chicago in 2018, the end of 2018. And shortly after she left, I sent her a whole kind of schematic business plan, whatever you want to call it, of how a national organization could look. So us wanting a national kind of a national macro unity has always been the thing. It's always been something that chapters have desired, but it was never something she wanted to do. You know, we've asked and tried to make it happen several times, me and several other people, but it was always something she didn't want to do. In fact, she basically said she didn't want to do it. So we kept doing what we were doing, and eventually it got to the point where she decided that she wanted to do a national organization. But prior to that, I had actually saw her in Kentucky, I think the end of or the beginning of 2020. And I said, listen, if you don't want to do a national organization, why don't you give those of us who, you know, who have started chapters and kind of propelled this movement through the roof and got the notoriety popping, why don't you give us the kind of the green light to start a national organization? We'll do what we do, and you do what you do. You could be like an advisor, a board advisor, you and Tone and Dr. Darity, Dr. Cosby. You guys can be like advisors to the board or something like that. But those of us that are organizing on the ground, why don't you just give us the salute to go ahead and do what we got to do, because we want some national congruency with each other. And she was like, I don't know. She said she wasn't sure she wanted to do it, but we were eventually going to do it anyway. So a few months later, she announced it on Twitter. She said, you know, I really don't want to do this, but what do you guys think about a national organization? And it was like a Twitter vote, and most people said, yeah, let's do it. So that started probably the last quarter of last year. And we started creating what was going to be called ADOS HQ. So ADOS HQ was going to be like the national hub where you can get a charter and all those type things. And I was part of what they call the inner circle, or a think tank that was supposed to help develop what the headquarters would look like. And so shortly thereafter, things went left. And now we're at the point where the chapters, Yvette and Tone, are separate. They do them and we do us.
So I can certainly see the benefit for having some national congruency, some national collaboration. What was the initial trepidation from Yvette to say, no, I don't really want the national organization? And how do you see that being detrimental to the overall cause of the collective in terms of getting reparations for descendants of American descendants of slavery?
Well, I'll go backwards. So in terms of getting reparations for American descendants of slavery, I don't see that affecting it really, because you know, and one of the issues me and Yvette end up having, and we kind of all separated because of internal issues. But one of the issues was they seem to have the perspective that it would only be ADOS identifying people or ADOS chapters that would get reparations done. And I've always thought that you're going to need a large coalition of different organizations, different people, whether they agree with us 100% or not. We're going to need a lot of people to get this done, different organizations to get this done. And their thinking was opposite that. They thought that, no, it's just us, nobody else. We on an island by ourselves. And that was just never that was a non-starter for me. But the apprehension in terms of why she didn't want to start a national organization initially, I don't know. And I told her and Tone this last we spoke. I don't think they knew what they had created. I don't think they knew. Why am I gonna say what they had created? I don't think they knew what had been created. When you start like talking about reparations is not new. The first person who got off the ship in America and realized he was getting work for free, he started talking about reparations. So that ain't no.
That's real.
Yeah, the idea of reparations for a peculiar lineage in America is not new either. I think Callie House, I want to say, the name of her organization was the Reparations Committee for Descendants of U.S. Slaves. That's a peculiar group of black people in America. So
and that dates back to when, approximately?
Maybe early 1900s, something like that.
Okay.
But that was, and I could be wrong on the name and the date, but one of the first notable movements, the name of it was, again, the Committee for Reparations for Descendants of U.S. Slaves. That's a peculiar group. They didn't say ADOS, but that's a peculiar group.
For sure.
Dr. King called us descendants of slaves. James Baldwin, Nikki Giovanni, Dr. Norris Shelton, Dr. Claude Anderson. I'm sure you guys are art students of Dr. Claude Anderson. Dr. Claude Anderson is always talking about Native Black Americans. So the idea of a peculiar group of people in America that's its own group that descended from U.S. slavery is not new. So, but
while acknowledging that, my bad, Marlon, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I just want to get these questions in as you bringing up these points. While we can totally acknowledge that, and there's history and proof of all these people, speaking and using that type of terminology. I think that it would be tough to argue that the ADOS movement specifically, right, in the past handful of years, has risen the conversation of reparations to a level that it had not previously reached. Would you agree with that piece, that ADOS and all the work that they did and the work that you all have continued to do has elevated the conversation to a status that it had not previously reached? Without question.
I mean, we stand on the shoulders of people like those that I just mentioned, but with the advent of the internet, we've been able to take this thing through the roof. I mean, this is just a fact, and I don't see why anybody would have a problem acknowledging that. But again, back to Yvette and Tone, I told them last we talked, and this is related to, what was her apprehension at first about creating a national organization. I don't think they knew what they created. So the concepts weren't necessarily new. What was new was combining the concept of a lineage. Like those folks who talked about us in the past, they didn't necessarily talk about lineage so much, except for maybe Dr. Claude Anderson and Dr. Norris Shelton, but they didn't have the internet, so they wasn't able to propel it like like it could have been propelled. But what made it really pop was the data that a person like Dr. Darity brings and the concept of lineage. When you put those two things together, first of all, the concept of lineage is almost like a spiritual thing. It's like you belong to this group. That's like an awakening to a lot of people. That's what caught. That's what catches.
Ron, I want to interject for a quick second, though, man. I don't want to minimize what Tone and Yvette did by saying they didn't create nothing new, because I think them creating the idea that this being a distinctive group and how that data fits in is kind of innovative. Not even kind of. It is absolutely innovative.
It's incredibly innovative. It's incredibly innovative, and this is what I'm saying. I don't think they knew what they were doing. They were just doing this show. Because I remember watching a show, and I would never try to take any credit for them. I just want to put it in the right perspective.
Okay.
I remember watching the shows early, say 2017, when I started watching her, and it was people would always, you probably remember this, people would always ask, what's the solution? Like they would always display, the data that Dr. Darity had developed, and people like Thomas Shapiro, et cetera. And people would always say, well, what's the solution? What's the solution? And one show in particular, I remember her saying quite clearly that, referencing an interview Tone did with Dr. Darity, and where he presented the solution. And the solution to closing the wealth gap was reparations. Prior to that, it was just about where we were economically. It was always about where we were economically. It was always about the wealth gap, and that being entrepreneurs wouldn't close the wealth gap, and you would have to have some massive government program, or so being entrepreneurs doesn't necessarily close the wealth gap. Doesn't close the wealth gap. But what the answer wasn't clear. Dr. Darity's work that he's been doing for the past 30 years is what kind of connected with lineage, and that's what created what we see. So the intention wasn't to do what we see now. It's something that developed, and I give them full credit for that. But that's just what it is. It's like I don't think they knew what happened. So to answer the question, why was she apprehensive about starting a national movement? I don't think that was the intention in the first place.
So
this is something that just
another
kind of
question in
organically
regards to
evolved.
that, though, in regards to the national movement, like one of the things I think the data that they put out and the perspective in which they approach the data from is shit unmatched in my opinion. But at the same time, because they didn't have a national organization and because you all kind of operated autonomously, do you think that kind of diluted the messaging and that kind of created the environment where they get so much pushback? Or do you think they was at the helm of creating the xenophobic views or some of the things you all got pushed back around?
Well, I think you're gonna get pushback regardless. If we'd have had a national movement from jump, which is something a lot of us wanted to do, or if you'd have waited 2 years in, like they're doing now, it's gonna be pushback because
you might get pushback, but y'all got specific pushback, right? Y'all got very different kinds of pushback.
Well, we were making specific arguments to specific groups of people, so that created, we were talking directly to the Pan-Africanist thinking, or direct, so you get pushback from that particular group when you aim something directly at them. So I think we'd have had pushback anyway, but I think if we would have had a national organization from jump, it probably wouldn't have been as much because we could have been more organized in terms of how we said what we said and a lot less. Because in the past it was real loose and it was just kind of wild, which is not necessarily bad because we kind of needed that to kind of break up some of the thinking that people had around Pan-Africanism and doing for self. So the harsh and tough arguments we had, I don't regret that. I think that was necessary. But if it were more organized in terms of having a national organization from jump, I think it would have been a lot better. But I mean, that's
Salim spoke with the alderwoman from Evanston the other day, right? And they said that three black aldermen who voted on the bill for the reparations bill, and one of the black aldermen, which was a woman, decided to vote against the bill. She decided to vote against the bill because something that she had heard via the ADOS conversation, right? Now, I'm not judging that at all, but when Salim asked the sister the question about how she felt about the ADOS philosophy, she said, this is a quote, she said, I don't understand their philosophy. They on every side of the coin, so I don't really know where they're coming from. She was like, I would love to do work with them, but I really don't know what perspective they're operating from. Now, using that perspective and then going into the autonomy of how groups work, I don't know what chapter was dealing with, Evanston specifically. I would assume, I don't know, maybe there is an Evanston chapter itself. I don't know. But
you talking about Ruth Simmons, Austin Simmons?
Yeah. But because of that autonomy and that no one single line of thought or no one single line of conversation or communication, it kind of rolls out like, reparations could be whatever that autonomous groups feels like reparations could be. And that can get very confusing.
Yeah, that's true. But the ADOS chapters have always had the same message since jump. The message is largely, like if you look at Dr. Darity's work, it's very, very clear. The idea of reparations going to those whose ancestors were enslaved in this country, that criteria, that's been Dr. Darity's work for the past 15, 20 years. We've always stood on that. He didn't say ADOS, but who reparations went to we were clear on that. And so I don't know why Ruth Simmons would suggest that. I actually spoke with Ruth Simmons a few times, and we were supposed to be having some one-on-one conversations, but I don't know what happened. But I can't say that about ADOS groups at all. We got this. That's what makes us such a strong. That's what makes the message so potent, is that it's the same message. They're like different. We don't have different messages. It's the same message.
If you will, can you lay out the structure organizationally for us, locally, nationally, and any interconnectivity between the chapters as it exists, in terms of trying to get an understanding of what the collective message looks like? Tu and I both are very, very pro ADOS, right? Yeah. And we both agree and align ourselves with the idea of whom was harmed by this American experiment, and therefore whom is owed by who the debt is owed to. That being said, the seeming or the perception of infighting and the perception of a lack of organization or continuity within the organization leaves a lot of room for misinterpretation, misinformation. And so while I appreciate the fact that you are here and you like, nah, we all on the same page.
Yeah.
Perception can be reality, right? And so if the perception is that it's batshit crazy within the organization and nobody knows what the other hand is thinking.
Right.
Can you kind of alleviate some of those concerns in terms of what that organizational structure looks like, what that communication looks like, and how do we go about ensuring that we are all on the same page? Because I think that if we are not on the same page, it certainly opens the door for anybody that is opposed to reparations itself or opposed to ADOS as a concept. It opens the door for them to kind of poke holes in the theory.
Right. So in terms of organization and unity, the chapters still, we all still communicate. We talk regularly. Some chapters have renamed. Unfortunately, some chapters have renamed. Some chapters are coming under, and I'm connecting with some brothers who are doing a kind of a freedmen movement, because after emancipation we were freedmen.
Right.
There's some guys, I gotta shout them out too. Be the Power. They're on YouTube. You can look them up on YouTube. Be the Power. They're kind of reviving that nomenclature. So but regardless of the renaming, we're all still on the same page. We all still communicate. And I'm actually putting together a website that will be a space where anybody who wants to find ADOS chapters or hear ADOS voices can come to that website and find out, where ADOS is in their local area, what chapters, how to connect with them, and things like that. So we're still going to be doing the same things under the same ideas. And like I said, in the next few days, I have a website up where people can find us if they want to hear ADOS voices in their local areas or actually join chapters, whether they renamed or not. It'll still be the same message. So right now, there is no organization per se that houses all the chapters. I think Yvette and Tone are still trying to do ADOS HQ. I believe they are. But I think seems to me they would have to come to the cities where chapters have already existed and try to, I don't know how they're gonna, how that's gonna happen. But as far as I know, they're still trying to do headquarters and ADOS headquarters, but we just won't be a part of it.
So quick question, Marlon.
We'll still be saying the same thing though. We won't be saying anything different.
Quick question. You said some of the chapters changed their name, but the name is paramount in getting the reparations, in my opinion. How or what could they possibly change their name to?
Well, so this is my thinking. This has always been my thinking. If a person is enslaved, if a person's ancestors were enslaved in this country and they identify as Black, that person's ADOS, whether you're in an organization or not. That's how I've always looked at it. That's how I looked at it from the beginning. Having the name ADOS Chicago is just, like I said before, it's just like Black Lives Matter using Black Lives Matter. Black is a people.
Yeah, but if you understand the inner workings of Black Lives Matter, you also understand how, I don't know, disorganized and disgruntled those local chapters really are. Like when they received their economic windfall, those local chapters got left out the conversation.
Yeah. But back to the question of as far, in terms of them changing the name, they just decided to. Yvette and Tone were kind of pressuring people to change the name, so they just decided to change the name. We didn't, and several chapters didn't as well. But what's important is whether you call it ADOS or whatever. What's important is legislatively who is the justice claim going to. But to me, if you're in a chapter or not, if your ancestors were enslaved in America and you're Black, you're ADOS to me.
Respectfully, bro, I disagree because there's extreme value in consistent marketing, right? And just and in having a singular identity when you talk about trying to go and get something, right? So whether you look at other groups of people, you talk about Native Americans, right? They all we're talking about Native Americans, all of them, right? And so when they want to go have an ask and say, okay, we're owed this, then okay, who we owe? This is the people that are owed that. When we talk about the LGBTQ community or whether they need to add another letter or add another number, they add a letter or add a number, but they don't go, 18 different ways, because having that identity is important when you go into a legal fight, right? You're taking this thing to courts or you're taking this thing to whomever. It's important to be able to identify who it is we're talking about. And if we're talking about ADOS over here and such group over there and whatever over there, it's like it becomes
fundamental Black Americans and all that. Yeah, it's a different conversation. It's a harder sell. Let's say that.
Well, I mean, that could be true, or maybe be true, or may not be true. Mm-hmm. But for me, if you're in the NAACP and you're an ADOS person by lineage, and you're talking the concepts of, reparations going to this peculiar group of people, I don't, I like that idea. I like having ADOS people in all organizations across the country. I want to see ADOS people in NAACP and the Urban League and Operation Push. I want to see them in ADOS chapters. I want to see them wherever. But talking about ADOS people in the context of reparations in those organizations. So regardless if organization had, the name is great. That's why we kept it. We kept the name because this is who we are. But in terms of that identity, that lineage, anybody can proclaim that to me. And if you're talking about the same concepts that we're talking about, whether you're in the NAACP or ADOS Chicago, the point is to get the concepts across. The point is to get the concepts in as many organizations as you can. As many advocacy organizations as possible.
Man, hold on.
That's kind of goes back to what I said when I said I've always thought that it was going to take more than just people who are in ADOS chapters to get this done. I think you're going to need ADOS people in all type of organizations. Because somebody might not join ADOS Chicago, they might not like me.
Man,
they may not like me,
That's possible. That's possible, man. Give us a quick second, man. We got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. You are listening to I Said What I Said with Herb Howard, Toussaint Werner, and Marlon Watson. We'll be right back after this break.
Everybody, welcome to the green side of things. It's your man, Sadiq.
And Cassiopeia.
And we need you to like,
comment,
and share
that thing
every Tuesday and Thursday from 1
to 3 p.m. on
What's in It for the Black People Media.
Sissy's Taco Bar Pop-Up is back with more hours and more days. Check them out at their new pop-up location at the Woodlawn, located 1200 East 79th Street. Sissy's Taco Bar offers authentic street tacos infused with international soul. Now every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at the Woodlawn from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. New vegan tacos have been added to the menu too. Visit sissytacobar.com for more info.
My name is Cassandra J. Matz, current Village of Olympia Fields trustee and your candidate for Village President of Olympia Fields. I've been a resident of Olympia Fields for 28 years. I believe in building strategic partnerships, establishing governance boundaries, and have and will continue to dedicate my life's work as a respected and credible voice when it comes to decision making. Olympia Fields has always been a community of familiarity and comfort, and I want to make sure the village stays that way. On Tuesday, April 6th, vote Cassandra J. Matz for your Olympia Fields Village President. Paid for by Citizens for Cassandra J. Matz.
If you don't like it, you can still tell him May said, Mayor Lightfoot, man, we ain't accepting that. We ain't accepting that. Let's go. Yeah. Let's get down to business and go ahead and address the facts, man. Lightfoot seems more lesbian than black. Rahm Emanuel's another case, he was just as tired. 50 closed schools left much to be desired. Police had Anjanette naked on that body cam. They suppressed the footage so it couldn't touch a lot of hands. Reminds me of that 16 shots in that cover-up. both of them similar, so I went and dug it up. George Floyd killed, a lot of riots happened in the town. Southside burned and they wouldn't let them bridges down. Grandmother sick, need a prescription and plus a couple groceries. You gon' have to travel just to get it now. COVID-19 out here shutting all the business down. Not enough SBA loans to even give around. So many failed businesses that you could put them in the pile. If you don't survive the pandemic, it's gon' sit you down. We sing, dance, play ball, entertain, and crack jokes. Government infested black neighborhoods with crack smoke. System that milked us so bad, we got lactose. Still trying to find out what's in it for us black folks. We sing, dance, play ball, entertain, and crack jokes. Government infested black neighborhoods with crack smoke.
Welcome back. You are tuned in to I Said What I Said. You are listening to Toussaint Werner with Herb Howard and Marlon Watson, and we are on What's in It for the Black People station. And that's
doing good, bro. You are doing good.
We trying to find out what's in it for the black people, man. For real. Salim asked a question from the comments for you, Marlon, I'm sorry. He asked about the Harvard study that pointed out to the ADOS that was a vehicle of disinformation. Have you read that study? You know about it, and how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I don't, unfortunately, it came from Harvard. You would think that it would be, of the highest journalistic integrity coming from Harvard, but
I wouldn't think that, but I feel you.
Why? I would think so, you know what I'm saying? But the article was misinformation to me, in my opinion. But I want to be clear before y'all ask the rest of y'all questions. To reiterate what I was saying, I want to see ADOS people in all over the country, in every organization. Like, you agree with the ADOS concept, you agree with the ADOS concept. To me, y'all ADOS, y'all ain't in ADOS Chicago, but whatever organization you in, I'm sure y'all talking that ADOS talk. That's what I want to see. I don't think it has to be just one group, one advocacy group talking about the same concepts. I want to see people, ADOS, the lineage, talk about reparations the right way in every organization, advocacy organization across this country. That's how it gets done, in my opinion.
Agree, and that's why I reference like the LGBTQ community, right? Yeah. That's not like a singular organization that people got to be members of. You know what I'm saying? You got people that are LGBTQ that are AKAs or educators or whatever the hell. You know what I mean?
Right. We understand. That's my point. That
being said, though, is that happening with ADOS where everybody is accepting that identity as a collective, whether they are whatever, you know what I mean?
Yes, even the organizations that renamed themselves, they're still ADOS people. That's a lineage. That's a group of people. They're still literally American descendants of slavery, and we still talk the same talk. We still walk the same walk. We're still about reparations for a lineage-based reparations for this group of people. That ain't changed. They're just in different organizations. So I want to see that lineage all over the country. I want to see them in the NAACP and the Urban League on what's in it for black people.
Conceptually, I get that, right? Conceptually, I know what you're saying. That philosophically, I agree with you wholeheartedly that they are ADOS people. I agree with that. But I mean, in terms of an identifier, are they identifying as such? Because I think that's important.
Yes.
Okay.
100%. Like I said, I want to see that everywhere. I don't want you to have to be in ADOS Chicago to say you're ADOS. You may not want to. There are a lot of people that are, all about advocacy, but don't do organizations. Okay, that's fine. Mm-hmm. Let's take this information, take this identity, and run with it, and go get and help us get these reparations. So I want to see it everywhere.
Yeah, I'm one of them people, Marlon. I don't really do organizations. I used to, but I don't anymore, man. And part of the reason why I don't is because I think it's counterproductive a lot of times, because most of those organizations are fighting for the same dollar. It's a small dollar, and also usually leadership is kind of corrupted with ego.
There you go.
The other day in the conversation that Cam was having with Salim, Cam said that Yvette and Tone were, I can't think of the exact words that he used, I don't want to quote him, but Cam said something that they were deterrent to the movement, and in the comments you kind of agreed. In what way?
I would never take credit from Yvette and Tone for what they did. I would never take credit from Dr. Darity, Yvette. I would never take credit from them. But the reason I agreed to that, because in some regard, this could be a lot more potent than it is. But as you just alluded to, the ego thing. I don't know what it is about organizations, but it's all it always runs into a situation. Well, not always, but it often happens. It often runs into a situation where there's ego, there's jealousy. People don't want to be accountable. It turns in, and then sometimes it turns into a cult-like scenario, which is what we were experiencing. And that was one of my pushbacks. It's like, nah, we an organization. We talking the same talk, but I don't do cults. I don't give human beings cult-like allegiance. And a lot of that was being, that was kind of some of the issues we were having. But so the reason I said that is because it could be a lot greater if we could deal with those issues. If we could deal with those issues, this thing could take off on a whole different level. And sometimes some of the vitriol is intentional, and it ain't got to be. And they've even told us that sometimes they intentionally are vitriolic, and it ain't always necessary. Sometimes you ain't gotta. Sometimes you have allies, and sometimes I won't say you. I would say they. Sometimes they had allies, meaning Yvette and Tone, and they would just shit on the ally. Like, what are you doing? This person may not agree with you 100%, but they kind of with us. Like, let's not. Why we got to beat them up, And it was just too much of that, So it's like, if you got somebody that agree with you 70-80% of the way, let's work. Let's pick that ball up and run with it. But they wanted like a cult-like loyalty, where you had to. It was unfortunate, and because of that, we end up, not having a lot of allies that we could have had, and by proxy, this isn't where it could be. And they still do that today. They still go after people unnecessarily. Like,
So-
dude, you ain't gotta.
I'm not making this statement as a defender of Yvette and Tone, because I have some hangups about Yvette and Tone. But I will say there's some value to shock, right? There's some value to vitriol. There's some value to being obnoxious, right? When you think about, you mentioned earlier about how many other organizations have mentioned descendants of slaves. They couldn't spread the message as fast because of the internet, and it couldn't get as big as it was because Yvette and Tone actually had the internet. Well, that's some truth to that. But in order to make a wave in the internet, you got to break through the monotony. You know what I mean? So in some ways, that vitriol, however you view it,
Provocative.
yeah,
Gets the
that
people going.
provocative energy breaks through the vitriol. You know what I mean? Not through the vitriol, but it breaks through the minutiae.
Being provocative and being unnecessarily vitriolic is two different things. We can be provocative. Reparations is provocative all by itself.
That's real.
Saying I'm a descendant of slaves is provocative all by itself. Saying the American government owes me and my community $10 trillion is provocative all by itself. Saying to somebody who is black but is not a descendant of slaves in this country is not me, that's provocative all by itself. You don't have to shit on people who aren't 100% in line with you, and they do that too much. They've done that too much, and so that's why I say that part, not just generally speaking, but that part is detrimental to the movement. But to me, the separation is good because it'll show people that you can be ADOS, you can identify that way. But if you don't like their flavor, if you don't like the fact that they want to beat up everybody, it's a place where you can come and it's okay. You know what I'm saying? We ain't gotta hate everybody, And they kind of created a culture where it was, like I said, it was almost cult-like. And I'm a military-minded guy. I'm a veteran, so I understand structure and loyalty and all that. But I don't do cults.
Along those same lines, do you then understand the value, or in this case, I would say the less advantageous position you put yourself in when you're fighting a battle on many fronts, dividing up your resources that way as opposed to a single collective going? Do you see it that way, or you don't see that type of division as being an issue at all? It's just like, as long as we identify that way, our mission won't be harmed at all by any sort of separation.
Well, I'll answer it like this. So you agree with reparations. You and two agree with reparations.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all not in any ADOS chapters.
Mm-mm.
But y'all talk about reparations just like we do. And y'all say y'all descendants of slaves just like we do.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. You don't have to be an organization. I think the organization is needed on some levels, but it's not. You don't have to do it. We can do both. You can be in an organization and be ADOS. You cannot be in an organization and be ADOS and talk like we talk. That's what I want to see. Again, is that the most effective way? I guess that's, I guess we'll see. But I think, to me, if I got ADOS people in ADOS Chicago, and I got ADOS people in the NAACP South Side chapter and the NAACP West Side chapter and the Urban League and Operation Push, and I got a ADOS person that's a senator, and I got an ADOS person that's a state rep, and one that's an alder person, and then one that work over here, one that know the mayor, but they ain't necessarily in the chapter.
Right.
Marlon, you think we put too much stock in the messenger over the message?
Well, that was the problem I had.
As a people. And I'm not speaking about your Ventone specifically. I'm talking about us as black people.
Well, no, I'm agreeing with you. And that's the problem we had with the whole national structure we were trying to put together. It was too much about the people. It became a cult of personality. It was too much of that. It's like, dude, you can respect and love people, but again, I don't do cults. I don't do that. I don't give people deity-like allegiance. I give people allegiance. I'm a very loyal person, a very strategic and military-minded person, but that only goes so far. Even in the military, they teach you to follow orders unless those orders are unlawful. Like, don't follow orders just because they're orders. It got to make sense. So, to answer your question directly, yes, I think it's too much cult of personality in Black society. And that's why I'm saying, if you're an ADOS person and you're talking about reparations like we're talking about reparations, to me, the start is the identity. Let's start with the identity. You ain't got to be in my chapter. You ain't got to be in ADOS Chicago. Go be in the NAACP. Again, you might not like me. I'm fine with that. Go over there and be ADOS and talk reparations just like we talk reparations. We may not be able to exist organizationally in the same space. That happens. You have personality conflicts. So to answer your question directly, it's too much of a cult of personality in our community. And that's probably because of how we're socialized. It could be a number of reasons, but I think we definitely put too much stock in the person and not enough stock in the message. Because, and I think, again, maybe it has something to do with how we're socialized. We're always looking for kind of like a savior, and when our people our saviors are always assassinated and maligned and all that kind of thing. So when we find other people to carry the message forward, to carry the water, we give them all the allegiance and love in the world. And sometimes I think it's too much focus on that as opposed to what's being said. Because what's being said, once again, ain't nothing new under the sun. I'm not taking credit from Event Tone. I give them all the credit in the world. It's just the concepts are just concepts from different places. They just are. Me being internal and knowing what's what, I know where the concepts come from. And again, full credit to them. No disrespect to them. No, I'm not, taking credit from them. I'm just saying we need to put stock in the message. It's the message, because tomorrow I could go off and do something crazy. Then what about, is it going to be an ADOS presence in Chicago? I would hope so. I don't want to have to be needed. And this is another reason I don't do a whole lot of, I got a YouTube channel. I don't use it a lot. I don't do a whole lot of, clout chasing and stuff like that. I'm more boots on the ground intentionally because, first of all, I'm not like a real camera guy, but I don't want it to be me. Like when people see me in Chicago, they say, "Oh, Mr. ADOS." That's cool, but no, I don't. I don't want that. I want everybody to be saying, "I'm ADOS," and America owes ADOS people. That's what I want, organization or not. So again, to answer directly to, we put too much stock in people, man. We put too much stock in people, and I get it to a degree, but we gotta mature to the point where the message is important. It's the most important thing.
I often wonder, like, how do we merge those concepts, right? You just said that you're a boots on the ground kind of guy. And then we talk about how ego is a deterrent in aligning your spirit with a lot of these organizations, not even ADOS specific.
Yeah.
But we got to be honest, right? As a people, we respond to theater. And you don't become that kind of a leader. You don't become that kind of a personality without ego. You just don't. It doesn't work. So there has to be some kind of alignment. And I don't know what the answer is to this. I'm just asking you. Like, there has to be an alignment between those two communities. There's There's a reason why King elevated himself to being king. There's a reason why Elijah Muhammad is Elijah Muhammad and not Malcolm X. And I'm not saying that to knock down Elijah Muhammad, because on the grounds, Elijah Muhammad produced way more than Malcolm X. But it wasn't until Malcolm X's character came into the fold and his charisma came into the fold that the nation grew. Those two energies have to be aligned for us to move the needle. And I think that we kind of struggle with that. And I don't know how we get beyond that.
I don't know the answer either, but I think we got to mature past that. Because, I mean, look at who's the leader of Asian America?
Well, Asian America isn't under the same conditioning that Black America's under, right? So, yeah, I'm sure you're right. We do need to get beyond that. You
understand what I'm saying?
But to have those conversations are kind of like disjointed conversations, because they already have an alignment culturally. We don't have that alignment. We're looking for that identity, i.e. the value of ADOS, right? That ADOS identity gives us something to align around. Asian America has something to align around already, which is the culture of Asia. You know what I mean? Or whatever climate they come from in Asia.
But you're an example of what I'm talking about. You agree with the ADOS message, but you're not in the chapter. That's good. That's what I want. You're not somebody that's lauding a leader as the water carrier. Then you don't disrespect nobody. You ain't finna disrespect Yvette and Tone or nobody and say they ain't this, that, or the third. But you're not gonna put them on a pedestal on a God-like, cult-like pedestal. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see people. I want to see us mature past the point where it has to be about the person. I'm not saying disrespect people. Give them their credit. Always give them their credit. But it got to be bigger than you. If it ain't bigger than you, we're going to be running around the same rat race. We got to mature to the point where it's bigger than the person. It got to be. Got to be.
Sure, bigger than the person, but not necessarily in terms of, organizational like membership or anything like that. Like, I'm with you on the piece of you don't have to be an active member in a given chapter, right, to still identify as ADOS. But I do think that it becomes a little bit skewed or murky when you have people who are in organizations that are specifically tailored towards the fight for reparations for American descendants of slavery using language other than American descendants of slavery. Because I think there's extreme value in having that identity, the very identity you're talking about. And whether you are a member of a chapter or not, having that identity itself is a huge, I think, first step in trying to get to this reparations piece. And so when you have people who are in an organization and who are actively engaged in the fight for reparations, but they don't use that same identity or that same terminology, I think that becomes detrimental. The same way when you're talking about ADOS versus like in Cobra, right? And shout out to In Cobra and all the work, and shout out to brother Cam Howard and all of his work. Love him a lot, man. But I don't agree with their philosophy on this pursuit towards reparations. That being said, as long as we have these fractured or splintered groups within our own collective mission, I just don't see that as being the optimum way for us to proceed. You know what I mean? Whether we're talking about in Cobra, ADOS, or some other offset.
I hear you, and that may or may not be true. Like, we haven't gotten to the goal yet. We don't know, nobody has the solve yet. So we don't know. You could be right. But I personally want to see, I want to see a bunch of ADOS folk who say, I don't like Marlon, but I like In Cobra, and I'm gonna go join In Cobra, and I'm gonna bring all my friends, and we're gonna talk ADOS philosophy in Cobra meetings as members. You know what I'm saying? I want to see a whole bunch of ADOS folk go over to the NAACP chapter and be like, look, matter of fact, our group, we joined the NAACP. With Rose Joshua, we joined the NAACP Southside chapter. And when we were at their meetings in these pre-COVID, we were talking about ADOS type stuff. And guess what? The folks in the NAACP Southside chapter started saying, yeah, that makes sense. They weren't part of the ADOS Chicago chapter, but they were like, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, black folk are intelligent folk. You know what I'm saying?
In that vein, Marlon, do you see a way that you can build any synergy with In Cobra? Or that ADOS itself as an org or identity can build synergy with In Cobra and what In Cobra's been able to do and been doing?
Well, for me personally, I've never ever said that I wouldn't build with Cam Howard. I ain't never said a bad word about him. at least publicly, you know. But on radio,
and that's important though. That it's funny, but that's important.
I mean, we all talk stuff behind the scenes, but you know, publicly, I've always given the brother props. You know, they've done, you know, they've been doing this for a long time. You know, I don't want to dump on them. You know, they've been doing this thing for a long time. I just happen to disagree with their school of thinking. Now, if we can work together, like on some local stuff, I'm with it 100%. If we can work together on a reparations bill and they want to keep their Pan-Africanist thinking, fine. I'm keeping my ADOS. I'm an American thinker. If I can do that and you can say I'm an African, but we can champion a piece of reparations legislation that makes sense that'll bring reparations specifically and identifies this particular group, or if not that, if we can work on some local legislation that would benefit Black people in the city of Chicago, you can be Pan-African as long as the legislation makes sense to help Black people in the city of Chicago. I'm cool with that. I ain't never had a problem.
And it's like, it's funny to say, like, you know, I ain't never said nothing bad about them publicly, but that's important. You know what I mean? Like, that's a real thing. Like, okay, we can disagree behind closed doors. Hell, we can argue and damn near come to blows behind doors. Mm-hmm. But once we leave out this door, our message needs to be united. It needs to be concise. And I don't know that in Cobra and ADOS can get to that space because there's a fundamental difference in philosophies here. It's not just like, you know, we differ here or there. There's a fundamental difference in who has been harmed and who is owed.
I ain't never really talked bad about Cam behind the scenes either.
I ain't saying you have. I'm just saying.
I know. I'm just being clear.
If me and Toussaint gonna argue about some shit that we want to take the direction of this show, we're gonna argue about it behind scenes, and then by the time we turn these cameras on, our message is gonna be united. Which now, whoever had to sacrifice and how we had to meet each other in the middle, whatever. But I think that is very detrimental when I hear the national co-chair of Cobra, and then I hear a chapter president from ADOS like at each other, like discrediting each other's work. Not to say that you've done that to Cam or that he done that to you specifically, but I'm just using those as an examples. I think it's very, very detrimental to the collective movement when that happens, because if I am white oppressor who don't feel like I owe y'all shit anyway, I'm like, you niggas don't even understand. Y'all can't even get on the same page.
I hear y'all.
Like, I'm gonna have this conversation.
Like I said, if Cam and Cobra or whomever, if they agree to the fundamental principle that America enslaved a particular group of Black people and reparations goes to that particular group of Black people, whether you want to wear a dashiki or a Martian outfit, I can work with you.
Listen, I hear y'all, but I wanted to make this quick statement because I'm gonna speak for two. Herb spoke for Herb. I'm not gonna talk about Herb publicly because I love Herb. But if you outside the foray of the people I love, I will challenge you and disrespect you publicly. And I think in a lot of ways, you know, I know we all the politically correct way to say things and do things, but I think there's some level of value to that, to being that level of provocative, right? And I think it is valuable because there's a quote that we use on this show all the time. We say, until you fully understand white supremacy, everything you think you understand will only confuse you, right? That's a Neely Fuller quote, right? And I think that we've been conditioned in such a way that some of the most appealing shit to us is some of the most detrimental shit to us. So in that vein, in my mind, I'm throwing the stick in the goddamn spoke. We gonna stop this shit, and I'm gonna stop it in this way to catch your attention. And I'm gonna disrespect you until you address me about it. And I know that might not feel good, but we so fucking sensitive too, and that's why we're wrapped into the theater of things. It's the theatrical move, but sometimes you got to do that shit. We are in a space and place where we have to disrupt, right? That conditioning has put us in a space and place where we go with the flow, right? In order to disrupt the flow, you got to do exactly that. Disrupt. But sometimes that might call for some disrespect.
I want to challenge you though, bro.
Okay.
If you disagree with somebody and you say it, is that disrespectful?
No, not at all.
Nah.
But there's a difference between a disagreement and a fundamental difference in ideology or philosophy. Like, again, until you fully understand white supremacy, everything you think you understand will only confuse you, right? Now, I think that I don't want to say the vast majority, but I say this too on the show all the time. Some people are called, those who are called rarely come. Those who come are rarely called, right? And when I look at the vast majority of Black leadership, I think they showed up. I don't think they were called. And they do have the minds and hearts of our people wrapped into the theatrics of how they present. That's why we align ourselves with great orators. That's why we align ourselves with the church. That's why we align ourselves with great speakers. Because the shit is a show, right? And I think that's kind of the value of Yvette and Tone too. Now, again, I think they got some assholeish behaviors, right? Mm-hmm. But you cannot deny the value of the information, the value of the data. It dispels all the goddamn theatrics. It dispels the theatrics. Here's the goddamn data. Let's deal in truth.
True. But what I'm saying, no, I agree with you. What I'm saying to you is telling the truth about somebody I don't consider that disrespectful to me. If I got to tell the truth about you, I'm gonna tell the truth about you. You know, to me, that sometimes I can tell the truth to you behind the scene, and there are times where I got to tell the truth in front of the scenes. But neither is a disrespect. For me, it's disrespectful if I don't tell you the truth. That's how I was raised. If I don't tell you the truth, I'm being disrespectful to you. You know what I'm saying? I got to tell you the truth, whether I do it in front or behind the scenes. That's where the judgment call comes. But the truth got to be told. We're gonna tell the truth. We're gonna keep it real. We ain't go pull no shots, you know. But the truth got to be told one way or the other. So I don't think that that's necessarily, you know. I guess it can be disrespectful, I suppose. Yeah. But
well, look, I'm gonna ride y'all's coattails. I disrespect them in the background, but you know, hey, y'all will have to turn on me eventually.
Now, I've been accused of being attacking people. In fact, Ruth Simmons. I'm not a rough around the edges, disrespectful dude. I was saying what I felt about the Evanston bill, and she and I were supposed to have conversations. It never happened. I got snubbed several times. And ultimately, I kind of left it alone, and folks, mutual friends, reached out and said, she don't want to talk to you because she said you was attacking her. I'm like, no, I wasn't. I was just saying that this bill is a dumb bill. It don't make no sense. That bill don't make sense.
What is your disagreement with the Evanston bill?
Well, it's a plethora of things, man. Ultimately, to me, it's they playing three-card Monte with reparations. You ever seen three-card Monte where they switch the cards around and you got to find where the money is? That's what they do in reparations, man. Because think about this, bro. They're identifying 3% of cannabis sales taxes, right? For reparations, right? So-called reparations. First thing is my first thinking is reparations is a federal program. So the federal government owes the debt of reparations. The local governments owe the debt of proportionality, not reparations. But with that as a overlay, think about this. Even though I disagree with them doing reparations, just think about how they're doing it. First, it can only be used to repair or purchase homes. So what that essentially is saying is if you decide you want to use that money to purchase a home, first you got to go get credit qualified to get the loan. So now, if you can't get credit qualified, you can't get your reparations to buy your home because it's if you're going to use it to purchase homes. So that's one problem. Another problem is they're using the cannabis sales tax is it's a new pool of revenue. They're identifying 3% of it for reparations. What they doing with the other 97%? Where is that going to? I want a proportionate share of that to the Black community, at least in Evanston. That's the debt of proportionality. What are you using the 97% towards? If the city of Evanston has a 20% Black population, well, and you're going to use the marijuana sales tax to repair roads, well, make sure that at least a proportionate amount of that, a commensurate amount, is coming to my community. Don't tell me that I'm going to identify 3% and I'm just going, and you're going to run off with the other 97%. And then there's a $300 million budget in the city of Evanston. Is that being distributed commensurately amongst the Black community in Evanston? If not, why are you talking to me about a 3% sales tax or 3% of a sales tax of a new pool of revenue? What about the old pool of revenue? What about that being distributed? However it's distributed, whether it's distributed through jobs or programs, whatever it is that being equitably distributed to my community? So they're using reparations, and to me, it's like a smokescreen because what you should be doing on the local level is making sure the resources that are there are commensurately distributed to my community, and then just point to the federal government for reparations. That don't cost the city nothing. If you do a resolution and you say that the federal government owes the debt of reparations to American descendants of slavery across the nation, they could say Evanston resolves that the federal government is the culpable party for reparations, and we agree that they should pay reparations to descendants of slaves. That don't cost the city anything. And then what you do locally is make sure the money that's already there is being distributed to my community in a fair and equitable way. So I have a serious problem with the bill on several different levels.
What do you say to people who say that, well, it's a start?
Well, I mean, I hear you, but a 1 hour work paycheck is a start to a 40-hour work week. Like if you work 40 hours and you go get the check and it's for 1 hour, that's a start too. I want my whole check. And I ain't leaving the facility till I get my whole check. And I'm not cashing that 1 hour work week check. I'm not cashing. I'm gonna give it back to you. And I ain't going nowhere till I get my whole check. So I get it, but we don't know when we're gonna have this opportunity again when people are talking about reparations like this. So we got to make sure we do this right.
Yeah, I agree.
I think there's value in getting the process started. I think there's value in what Robin Rue Simmons and what they've done out in Evanston. Is it perfect? Not by any stretch of the imagination. Is it streamlined directly to those who are owed a debt? Not by any stretch of the imagination. But I do think that in laying down something first, right, it then gives you a baseline to then build upon. And so I do want to give them credit for the work that has gone into it, albeit incomplete and imperfect. I do find some value in the fact that it exists and that they got it pushed through. And hopefully the second city who has such a bill passed through is a little bit better, and so on until ultimately it's a national thing to where all ADOS people are receiving repair commensurate with the harm that has been done.
You run into so many problems if they start adopting this around the country as models for reparations, because again, the culpable party for like the city of Evanston may have not owned it, I don't know. But if they did it because it was allowed by the federal government. Like if you slip and fall at Walmart on 87th Street, you sue corporate Walmart. You don't sue the Walmart on 87th Street.
Right.
You go for and then when you consider the goal of reparations, so you can never, in terms of it being perfect, it'll never be perfect because there is no price that you can pay for what you do to black people. But there is a price we'll take.
Right.
Ain't no price you can pay, but it's a price we'll take. And for me,
we see it all the time with these civil lawsuits against police brutality or whatever else.
It's a price we'll take, and that price has to be grounded in closing the racial wealth gap. That's what slavery, Jim Crow, and all these things, that's what it did to us economically. There's other harms, trauma and all this kind of stuff, and I get all that. But economically, what it did is it created a wealth gap. And so the price we'll take is the closure of the wealth gap. If you're not doing that, to me, look, again, it's not no, I wouldn't take it. We got to be resolute. I wouldn't take it. Again, if I went to my job and got, I worked 40 hours and they gave me a check for 1 hour, I'm not cashing that check. I'm giving it back, and I'm sitting there till they go get my 40-hour check from somewhere, from petty cash, or somebody finna give me 40 hours worth of money.
But from another perspective, though, Marlon, it can kind of serve just like HR 40 in a way, right? It legitimizes the argument. Now, my personal opinion aside, I think HR 40 is a sham, personally, right? I think it's a waste of goddamn time. But at the same time, we know the opposition that we up against, right? And it's a game, right? So in that game, you got to play by certain rules. And I think that what's going on in Evanston does the exact thing that they're asking HR 40 to do, is to legitimize the conversation.
You can legitimize the conversation with resolutions. You don't think about this. Let's say cities around the country start adopting reparations resolutions or reparations legislation, and they start giving us stuff like housing programs or contracts, which is what cities are supposed to do anyway. Like cities are supposed, as a resident of the state of Illinois, I'm supposed to have access to contracts. If I start a business and that can fulfill those contracts, I should have access to that. As a resident of the state of Illinois, I should have access to the down payment programs for home buying that already exists. So think about.
Marlon, hold that thought, brother. I got caught up in the conversation, man. We got to take a quick break, brother.
All right.
WIIFTBPM.
The Chicago Legal Network is the collaboration of attorneys that concentrate in many areas of the law most needed in Chicago neighborhoods. The CLN lawyers focus on personal injury, criminal defense, and other issues. The CLN lawyers all average over 20 years of legal experience and are dedicated to helping the Chicago community. The Chicago Legal Network is committed to developing black lawyers through mentorship and co-representation. So if you were injured in a car accident, slip and fall, or injured on the job, or you need assistance with criminal defense, including driving violations and DUI, check out ChicagoLegalNetwork.com for more information or call 773-912-3545. 773-912-3545.
Hey yo, my music is addictive to the user. I let the rush soothe them, they tune in, then I school them. Listen, homie, this shit ain't real, it's just illusions used to fool men, women and child to confusion. Start running wild, changing views when niggas think they winning when they losing. Caught up in movements, moving foolish, letting life fool them, betting they life losing, trying to better their life when vice moving, cruising, grabbing clicks and cruising, bagging chicks and dudes off tips with slick maneuvers, turn OGs to broke D's and hungry crooks. Stand sideways, my way giving me funny looks. That's why I hide my money in books. They scared to learn, allergic to words, swerving towards murderous curves. In the dark, working the curve. I'ma still shine cause I'm the light and I'ma burn to my purpose to serve. Knowledge is power and ignorance is bliss. It's the wisdom that shines through the visions of the mist. The main challenge is to maintain a balance between your soul and the body and control. It's the science. Knowledge is power and ignorance is bliss. It's the wisdom that shines through the visions of the mist. The main challenge is to maintain a balance between your soul and the body and control. It's the science. Pussy on the brain, T-bone steaks, a pint of dog, light in the jaw. Pushing cane on the paper, writing bars. Lines are similar, the scars that run deep. I've been involved in the race since the beginning. Running these streets like Kenyans when it was dark with no heat. Used to spar with the stars before I nod to sleep. I hardly speak, it's hard for me. But all I see from the broads and the cars on this darkened street, parts of me from the heart is hard and Mars is deep. Starving for the part when we would start to eat. Since Marvin argued deep with an armory of harmony, charming my father's feet. Congo, alcoholic talking, constantly walking through the valley with his arms on me. I've been here since life in itself. Good versus evil in the hood with my people, fight myself. Knowledge is power and ignorance is bliss. It's the wisdom that shines through the visions of the
I see Maze is just like Lil Rod. He don't even say that. We just come back in. You are tuned in to I Said What I Said on the What's In It for the Black People Network. I am Toussaint Werner. Today, my co-host is Herb Howard, Hollywood Herb.
Like father, like son.
Like father, like son. I'm over here looking at my phone. He told me, what you doing?
I think it was Boosie. I think it was Boosie the other day that said something about like Triple H, and I was like, damn. Every time they come up with a new name for me, it's always just another H. Whether it's Hot Boy, Hollywood, Harem, it's always just another H. I'm like, they just go with the H thing. But it
all works though, G. Hot Boy, Hollywood, it all works, G.
HEAUX, it all works.
What do you say?
Don't even pay him no attention, cuz. Don't pay him no attention. It ain't working.
It's always one, man. It's always one. Either way, man, we are absolutely thrilled to be joined this afternoon by the good brother Marlon Watson from ADOS Chicago. Marlon, first of all, we appreciate you taking the time, man. You good? How you feeling?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Like I said, anytime y'all wanna chop it up, I'm available, bro. So
we certainly appreciate it. It's an extremely valuable conversation. The work is too important to not address, the little shit that pops up that could become detrimental or ultimately even derail the movement. And so who better to talk to than yourself or like Salim had Cam and Robin Root Simmons on the show. Like we got to be able to talk with y'all to figure out, how do we push through the small discrepancies and keep the larger goal at mind here, and what does that process look like? So again, thank you so much for taking the time to chop it up with us and have this discussion. We appreciate it, for real.
Yeah, we appreciate you rocking with us, man. And we ain't gonna hold you too much longer, man. I got like really two basic questions that I want to get to, and then we can probably let you go. One, how many members does
I got time, by the way. I got time. I ain't got nothing to do.
Okay, how many members does ADOS Chicago currently have? And since you all aren't leveraging the internet in the way that you say you're going to be doing more on the grounds works, what does that work look like?
Well, our membership count, I keep that. That's confidential. I don't tell. I don't get that out. but in terms of us doing work on online, what I meant by that was in connection with other chapters. So again, there was going to be a national organization headed by Yvette and Tone, but I'm sure they're still going to do their org, I suppose. But the chapters that left, like I said, 95% of them left. Are doing our autonomous but connected with one another. We will have apparatus so people can find us, and if they want to hear ADOS voices, that'll be something that's coming pretty soon. So I hope I answered that question.
Kind of, sort of. I also know you all were engaged with. Weren't you all doing something with Willie Wilson on the grounds here a while ago around reparations too? Wasn't that you all, or was that Cam too?
I think that was Cam then.
That was Cam?
Yeah, I didn't do nothing but
But you did go to Springfield to try to push some bills through with, I know you was talking to Rep. Nick Smith and who else? And what was that bill?
Yeah,
I can't remember it specifically.
We had a House bill to make the designation for ADOS people something on a state level. The bill was moving, but it died. We're doing it died. We let it die for a reason. We're considering another approach to get it done. Okay. We kept getting a lot of pushback from the governor's office, saying it would cause Black Americans to miss out on contracts. But I was like, we ain't getting them anyway. So, but anyway, there's some. Right. We're gonna consider some other approaches. We also had a bill, an equity bill that we put together. But we're going to revisit those things as well. But right now, locally, we're working on an executive order, something myself, Rep. Ford, and a few other people are working on, ADO Chicago. And the executive order is the 1619 executive order, which is an executive order for Black citizens in Illinois. And it basically creates a task force that meets with the governor and all of the agency heads. And we can start to put together a plan that directs money towards our community. So you can go see more about that on itshardbeingblack.info. That's the website, itshardbeingblack.info. And another piece of legislation we have that's doing really well is we teamed up with Pastor Williams, Anthony Williams, and he had a resolution some years ago. His son was shot. His son was murdered in Chicago. And he created a resolution in his son's name that declared violence a health crisis in the state of Illinois. And that resolution passed some years ago. Well, with the help of ADOS Chicago and Pastor Williams connecting together, we got it turned into bill form. And so it's House Bill 158. It's a health reform bill, so it has a bunch of things in the bill, but the crux of it is making violence a health crisis, not just gun violence. All violence, institutional violence, structural violence.
Yeah, it should be, but until we are valued as important in this country, it's going to be hard to push any of those things through. I think that is why you received the pushback for the ADOS identity from the governor's office, because I think that they understand that once you have that identity, then it creates this sense of unity, and it creates this, kind of like a fist of unity that has to then be dealt with. Versus if 800 white kids got killed in this city every year, gun violence would be a fucking epidemic. They'd have all kinds of people studying it and getting rid of it.
We're gonna revisit the identity piece, and when we revisit that and create that bill, I'll definitely be calling on you guys to shout it out. But the violence piece is, we got it through the House, we got to get it through the Senate now. But that's kind of the thinking that is talking about all violence. Like racism is violence. America, they say America started with racism. America started with violence, and so we're talking about all violence, even violence that harms. Or that's harmed and is perpetuated by white people in the state of Illinois. So it's an all-encompassing bill. It's a comprehensive bill that targets violence, period. And then we can start to study why many of the issues of violence happen in our community, whether it's gun violence, domestic violence, knife violence, whatever kind of violence it is, structural. Look up structural violence, and we can start to redirect the funding to help deal with those issues. Because many times the problem with violence is perpetuated by generations of degradation or generations of poverty, generations of dysfunction can be followed up. Well, generations of poverty can be followed up with generations of dysfunction. And so we'll be able to study those things and redirect funding. So just give you an example. If we say, if it becomes a bill, if it becomes law, and we say, well, kids on the South Side, black kids keep carjacking people, that's violence, right? Well, let's go find out why that's happening. And what we're going to find out is those kids are poor.
White supremacy.
Their parents are poor. Their parents were poor. Their parents were poor. And they live in one of the richest cities in America. W.E.B. Du Bois said to be poor is hard, but to be a poor people in a land full of money is the bottom of hardship. So now we can study that and say, this is why this is happening. So to remedy them carjacking folks, let's put something in place where they can be able to afford their own cars. And they won't come get your car. You know what I'm saying? So then we can start to address structural violence. So it's about finding out what it is. We know what it is, but if we can get this to become law, then we can start redirecting funding to remedy the problem, and then the mental health behind it as well. So that's what we're working on right now. That's what our major focus is locally. House Bill 158. We're going to be talking a lot more about it. I may put a website together to identify it as well. But either way, we're going to be talking about it. I'll be tweeting it on Twitter, on Facebook. And if you want to help with that, just reach out, let me know. And we can show you how you can get into it and help out.
Man, you got an open door policy with us, brother. Man, what you saying, Herb? You got something?
Go ahead, my bad. No, I do got one more question, but go ahead.
Go ahead. Now I was about to close out. If you got another question, go ahead.
All right, cool. Martin, let me ask you this. Like, the research has been done in terms of who was harmed, who owes that debt, approximately what that debt should be. The awareness has been raised to, again, the highest levels that it's ever been raised to in terms of this conversation around reparations. What else needs to happen to try and bring this thing home? And if I can ask you that, and if you can answer without giving any state secrets, I don't want you to give the opposition a peek behind the curtain or anything like that. But what else can we do to kind of bring this thing home? What other options, what other weapons are in our arsenal that we can use to complete this mission that we haven't already used?
I think we are exhausted in terms of what we can use. I think the only thing is we just got to use it more. Like we're using all the tools we can to get the message that America owes this peculiar group of people for said crimes. Like you said, the numbers have been done, the science has been done, the history's been done. We know what the goal is. We know how much would accomplish the goal. We know how the distribution would work. We have case studies and models that existed for decades and if not centuries of people being in similar situations being remedied through the federal government. So we know the answer. The only issue is doing it more, talking about it more, getting the message out more, getting enough people.
Right, because ultimately we gotta force their hand on this, right? They've had 400 years to be like, all right, we're gonna correct our own wrong, right? If ain't nobody apologized to you, if ain't nobody apologized to you in 400 years, I doubt very seriously they're gonna wake up tomorrow like, you know what? Our bad. We've been wrong to y'all all this time. We fucked up. We're gonna make it right. I doubt that it's going to go that way, right? I think that it's going to have to be, their hand is gonna have to be forced. And 6 years ago, coming up on 6 years ago, the minister called for 1 million people, specifically brothers, to descend upon DC for 10-10-15, and it was this justice or else thing. And went out there, energy was dope, everybody's excited, and it's this justice or else. And to be honest with you, for everything I respect and love about the minister, I was disappointed in what the or else was. Like I personally didn't feel like I got the or else. And so what I'm saying is the same question here is, okay, here's what's owed, here's who owed it, run that, or what? You know what I mean? Is there some study done on that to say, okay, this is what we think y'all owe us. If y'all don't want to pay it to us that way, here's how else we'll make y'all fucking pay that shit until y'all run us our bread.
Well, to answer your question, that I would say, I would add to what I just said by saying, when we see initiatives like or the or else Minister Farrakhan talked about, who somebody I love as well, we got to push people like him. It's like, or else what? The or else has to be reparations. It has to be economic justice for the descendants of slaves. That's the or else. Ain't no other or else. Ain't no.
I feel like that's the justice. I feel like the
Yeah,
justice is
that's the
reparations.
justice.
The
That's
or
the
else
justice.
has to be or what? You know what I'm saying? Or we fucking y'all up, or we taking y'all money, or we withdrawing from y'all system, or we.
To me, the or is, you know, Malcolm said by any means necessary, obviously, but the or in a, I guess, civil way is you got to pay the consequences politically.
I'm gonna challenge both of y'all though. I want to challenge both of you all, right? I'm solely with the construct of ADOS, and I know it's the basis of it is to get reparations. For me, that's not even the greatest value of the ADOS concept, though. The greatest value of the ADOS concept to me is the building of an identity, right? So if we look at our community, we do have a plethora of problems, and there's no way to walk away from that or back away from that. But our biggest problem, in my humble opinion, is that we lack identity, right? I think what reparations does, it gives us a way to anchor ourselves in and not have to live a life based in survival, right? And through not being forced to, you know, leverage every day of your life in the way of survival, it kind of gives you time to anchor yourself in spiritually and really deal with the crux of a lot of our problems. And a lot of our, you know, our problems have been imposed on us. I'm not confused about the situation at all, you know, but although money might stabilize us, it won't make us healthy, in my opinion. You know what I mean? In my opinion, it won't make us healthy, and that's an inside job. So rather than the or else, I think it's the and else or and next and whatever we can merge together. You know what I mean? And that has to be a consistent push, because you're right. Both of you all are right. You know, no, I don't give a shit what conversation we come up with. I don't care what data we come up with. Nobody's confused about the harm implemented on black people in the Americas. Nobody's confused about that shit. Nobody.
Right. Not even the white people.
Not even the white people. You know what I mean? And like I said earlier, it's a game that we're playing. So I get the value of the game, but at the same time, we have to be accountable for our own community as well. And in that, instead of the or else, because the or else still puts the power in the hands of someone else. It has to be a and to me instead of a or.
I think it has to be, and I agree with both of you guys. I think it has to be a political consequence. You don't get my vote. I mean, you just don't. You don't. I mean, we don't have gobs of money to influence policy. You know.
Right.
All we got is our vote, and what Malcolm said is still true. We're still the swing vote until they legalize immigrants that are here illegally. Until they do that, we may, you know, if they do that, we might not be the swing vote anymore. I don't know, but they vote so split. Maybe in that scenario, we might still be the swing vote because we voted with a concentrated way. So we're still the swing vote, and it has to be a political consequence. If you don't get
but we too scared for that though, bro. We too scared. We too emotional. So Donald Trump says things that hurts our feelings, and so because he hurt my feelings, then I'm going to put Biden and Kamala in regardless. I'm gonna put them in regardless. They ain't gotta address none of my needs. They ain't gotta offer me shit. Right. I'm gonna put them in because the other person hurt my feelings.
But it's a whole lot of people out here that think like me and you. We just gotta go get them. So that's why I said the one thing we gotta do is more of what we're doing. And I used to do a weekly presentation, ADOS presentation, and it would basically define who ADOS is, tell people that who you are. If you're ADOS, and give them an ethnic identity, and then talk about reparations. And that presentation, not because I was doing it, but because it was so potent as far as information. Sometimes it brought people to tears because they was like, "Oh, I'm this," you know. So I'm gonna start doing that again. Start doing that presentation and trying to share it as much as we possibly can. Before COVID, we were doing it at libraries, and we bring out 50, 60 people. So we're gonna start doing it again online just to, you know, accomplish what we're talking about in terms of doing more of what we're already doing. Like that, we got to do more of it. And Mark, even though some people,
I got one more question, man. Cam said something the other day that I thought was interesting. I didn't necessarily agree with it, but I thought it was interesting. And he said that Nkrumah's approach to reparations is more of a harm-based approach rather than a race-based approach. What do you think about that logic?
I don't know what that means. I'm not sure what that means.
So he explained it as being, and what he was doing was he was talking about when it gets to a certain level and they talk about it's unconstitutional for us to use this blackness, right, as this thing, because in the Constitution it says you can't use race to push through a bill, right? And so what he was saying was it's not about race so much as it's about the harm that's done. So it's not about black people so much as it's about a group of people who have been harmed. And so if we keep the focus on the harm and not so much on the race or identity of those who have been harmed, then it's not unconstitutional, right? And so I follow him a little bit, but I also think that there's a risk of losing the value or identity of whom has been harmed by proceeding with that school of thought.
Yeah, well, I would say it's not about race; it's about lineage. So yeah, the Constitution say we can't use race. I ain't using race. I'm using I'm using descendants of slaves. You know what I'm saying? But to make it about harm, well, you know, I'm sure somebody can dig up a Hispanic person that was hung. You know what I'm saying? They could dig up some non-ADOS people's ancestors that maybe sharecroppers. I'm sure they could. You know, harm is just too general for me. I need it to be about a particular people group, just like it was with the Japanese. It was very clear. And then just like it is with the Jews, you know, the Jews in America that get reparations, you only get it if you are connected to ancestors that were harmed in the Holocaust. All Jews don't have ancestors that were in the Holocaust.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So they're not talking about race. They're talking about a particular group of people that were harmed. It was targeted against those particular people, and the redress should be to their descendants. Same thing with the Jews. You should copy that matrix, that equation with descendants of slaves in America. And tell Cam, let's go have some coffee or something. Cam be tripping. Tell him stop that non-engagement policy.
I'm gonna definitely tell him that, man, because I think you all should have.
You saying Cobra or Cam got a non-engagement policy with y'all?
That's what I heard. That's what I was told. So, but man, if y'all don't stop that, we ain't gotta. I don't have to agree with you, dude. I don't have to agree with you. I don't feel like I'm almost begging, so I don't go begging. But like, dude,
right, no, you don't. We don't want you to beg either. Now, I know you ain't no beggar, but we'll try and facilitate that conversation.
Yeah,
I think it's important.
This stuff we can work on locally. I ain't gotta agree with you on reparations. Fine, we ain't gotta agree. Fine. You know you can be a Pan-African. Okay, fine. Okay. Well, look, it's a violence bill in Chicago. Would that help black people in Chicago? Well, let's work on it. It's an executive order we're trying to get done. Would that help black people? Let's work on it. I don't understand why. I don't know, but
so you want to facilitate that conversation?
I mean, I'm willing. I mean, look, mutual friends of ours have reached out to him and said, "Hey, you want to have a conversation with Marlon?" I said, well, they asked me if I want to have a conversation with Cam. I said, sure. Yeah. So I'm not like that.
I'll try to make that happen.
Yeah, I don't get bent all.
That's all we can do is try. I ain't saying we're gonna kidnap Cam and bring him to the coffee shop, but we'll try to make it happen. You on record as saying you with it, so
man, you know how many times I said that, man. I remember the last show I was on was Salim's show. He was like, well, they said they don't want to deal with you because you won't say that you're standing on their shoulders. So I said, all right, we're standing on their shoulders. Fine. Now let's talk. I mean, black kids are still carjacking people in Chicago. You know what I'm saying? They still doing it. Like, we got to do something about that. So all this organizational identity, let's get some work done, man. And speaking of organizations, I got to give a shout out to some brothers, man, if I could. The brothers, the BTP, Be the Power on YouTube. When all the stuff happened with Yvette and the chapters, they weren't in chapters, but they were friends of the movement. And when everything happened, they used to defend Yvette and Tom, but when everything happened, they stood up for the chapters and they were stand-up guys. Also my brother Ibrahim from Ados, Indianapolis, he came right out and stood up for the chapters that took our position. And so I want to give them a shout out. And I'm actually going to be connected with them this summer in Atlanta. They're going to be doing a Freedmen's parade. It's going to be a Freedmen's kind of parade, like a barbecue and a get together. It's going to be 2 days, and I'm gonna be there. Hopefully, other ADOS folk will be there. And their website is they're the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen, and it's usadof.org. usadof.org. United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen, and they're doing a lot of education around what the freedmen are owed. So post emancipation, we were legally called freedmen, freedmen and women. They had the Freedmen's Bureau and Freedmen Bank, and so that was our legal that was our designation. And so they're reviving that thinking, and they bringing out some amazing history. So I'm gonna be rocking with them. We're gonna be connected. We're connected now, but we're gonna be working together at this parade or this barbecue they're doing this summer. It's gonna be on Juneteenth. We're gonna be in Atlanta, and those brothers, those are my brothers. So I want to give them some love, give them some shout out.
Well, that's super dope, man. Definitely keep us abreast of the developments as that draws nearer. We want to be in touch with you. We expect to talk to you before Juneteenth anyway, but definitely keep us up to speed on what's going on with that. And when you're down there, we touch base with you while you're down there, also and get the energy of what's going on up there. We'll be doing a lot of things for Juneteenth up here as well. So maybe we put that together, share some information, do something like that.
Yeah, I'm with it, man. Anytime y'all want to talk, if y'all need a third member, man, let me know.
we trying to keep Maze from trying to be a third member.
Ain't nobody want to be no third member. I ain't got no desire.
You just see how many notes Maze they posted on the window.
Nah, but anytime, man. I don't be doing nothing, bro. So anytime y'all want to chop it up, I'll chop it up.
We appreciate you, brother. Thanks so much for taking the time.
We
More
definitely
importantly,
do,
thank
brother.
you for the work that you have been doing and continue to do, brother. We'll talk to you real soon. Appreciate you.
Appreciate y'all, man. Much love, bro.
Peace, bro.
All love, my brother. That was Marlon Watson from ADOS Chicago. Kind enough to come and chop it up with us for over an hour. Give us some insight into his philosophies and how he feels about ADOS as a movement, but also as an organization, and the necessity or not for people to be a member of the organization in order to be identified in the value of having that identity as well, but also what it looks like to be in collaboration with other groups such as in Cobra and others. So shout out to Marlon for coming on. We appreciate him taking the time to do so. Shout out to you too, man. You always act like you so uncomfortable in the point guard position, but you manage it very well, my brother.
Hey, when I really played the game, I played the point, G. I played the point. I just don't know how to do it in this setting. And then Maze, Lil Ron, Big Ron over there, that just turned on a commercial.
They the same, like father, like son. They the same. They the same.
I literally was trying to play. Let me stop. You ain't talking.
They the same, man. They the same.
Exactly the same, man. Exactly the same. So I don't know how you want to play this, cuz I know you said you might have had some other stuff to get done. So I wanted to give you time to make that happen. I didn't know if that's the case or not.
It's cool. It's cool. I'm cool with rocking the 5 o'clock hour. If it's something you want to get into, I'm cool with that. But I just, I wanted to let people know that perhaps we would be doing an abbreviated version of the show. But I'm cool to rock till 6.
Y'all don't want to give a brother spring break, man. It's some hard work back here.
Yeah, Maze is
like he trying to ride the bike.
Maze is struggling. I'm struggling. We can get up out of here, brother.
All right, well, we up out of here, man.
Too, Listen, we could put you up on. We could put you on the screen. You can roll it.
No, he don't.
I kind of assumed that we might be wrapping up once we got done talking to the brother Marlon. So it's all good, man. We just want to thank y'all for tuning in to this Thursday edition of I Said What I Said. I hope y'all enjoyed the conversation. Appreciate y'all's input, y'all questions that y'all sent through. Certainly added value to the conversation. So we appreciate y'all as always. We appreciate y'all. Y'all make sure y'all get up early tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. for the Maze Jackson show. We'll see y'all again when we see y'all.
Hold up.
What's up?
You gotta hold up, man. I finally got it in order, and it's the 5 o'clock hour, and I done finally figured it out. So before you go out, you gotta let me do this, all right? Let me just.
Let me
play the song for you at least.
He finally found our record.
I thought it was going to be Streets of Bolingbrook.
It should have been Streets of Bolingbrook.
You know what? I can't find the Streets of Bolingbrook. Y'all should interview Sosa, King Sosa, man. Y'all should have.
We should absolutely talk to King Sosa from the Streets of Bolingbrook. Again, man, we appreciate y'all rocking with us, man.
I'm sure Maze got it on his speed dial. Maze can set that up.
Yeah, that's his little homie. He raised dude. You know that.
Right. Clearly.
He definitely raised dude. But yeah, man, so we'll catch up with you all tomorrow. Go and do our outro, Herb.
Y'all make sure y'all go to the IsWiz Pod page on Instagram, man. Check out the designs that Two laid out for the different apparel that we will be rolling out. Let us know what y'all like. I think Two put up like 7, 8, 9 different designs. And I think that we're looking at actually producing the top 2 that y'all come up with. So let us know what y'all think about that. Again, that's at the IsWiz Pod page on Instagram where y'all can find that. And let us know what y'all think. And we'll get those to y'all. We also got some new dope stuff that's already in right now. Two I showed you earlier. Should I wait till I put it on the website or should I tell them?
Man, let's wait till we get it up.
All right, well, fine. We'll wait till you get it up.
That's what his lady say too.
Wow. We definitely got to get up out of here now. On that note, man, we is up out of here.
On that note, peace out, man. We appreciate y'all rocking with us. Assalamu alaikum.
Peace.
You can get that from Fergie. Had a real nice dream. Me and Charlie Sheen. Few Playboy bros. I was high in Rob Ford. Brick after brick. Like Shaq at the free throw. I stayed hard.